Today we will see the topic muscles of the back and the suboccipital triangle. At the end of this lecture, you should able to describe the suboccipital triangle under boundaries, contents and applied anatomy. You should also know about the semispinalis capitis muscle and what is ligamentum nuchae. The back, it is also called as the neck of the neck. It is limited above by the external occipital protuberance and the superior nuchal line, below by the spine of the 7th cervical vertebra and horizontal line extending on either side from it to the acromion process of the scapular region. The important structure present at the back of the neck, they are the ligamentum nuchae. This is the ligamentum nuchae or the nuchal furrow, extensor muscles of the neck, suboccipital triangle and the arterial anastomosis present in this area. The skin of the back of the neck, it is thick and it is supplied by the medial branches of the dorsal rami of the C2, C3, C4 spinal nerves. Every dorsal rami is divided into medial branch and the lateral branch, but the exception for this is the first cervical nerve, which do not subdivide. It only supplies to the 4 suboccipital groups of muscle. So C1 do not have any cutaneous innervation. This you should remember, that the first cervical nerve don't have any cutaneous innervation. The cutaneous nerves derived from the medial branches of the dorsal rami of the 2nd, 3rd and the 4th cervical nerve. So no any cutaneous nerve supply present for the first cervical nerve. The greater occipital nerve, it pierces, this is the greater occipital nerve which is the thickest cutaneous nerve of the body. So this is the greater occipital nerve whose fibers are derived from the 2nd cervical nerve. It is the thickest cutaneous nerve and it is present 2.5 cm lateral to the external occipital protuberance, and it also supplies to the posterior part of the scalp region. Third occipital nerve, the third occipital nerve is this one. The fibers are derived from the 3rd cervical nerve. It pierces the deep fascia medial to the greater occipital nerve, and there are also cutaneous branches from the 4th and the 5th cervical nerve. So these are mainly present in the superficial fascia, which is thick and consisting of the fibrous tissue. So these cutaneous nerves, cutaneous vessels, which are the terminal branches of this occipital artery, are present in the superficial fascia. So this is the tortuous course of the occipital artery, and these terminal branches of the occipital artery, they are present in the superficial fascia of the back of the neck. Coming to the deep fascia, which is also called as the nuchal fascia, it is consisting of triangular sheet of fibroelastic tissue which forms a median fibrous septum. This is called as the ligamentum nuchae. So this is the ligamentum nuchae, which is the triangular fibrous sheet consisting of the superior border, anterior border, and this will be the posterior border, superior, anterior and the posterior border. Superior border is attached to the external occipital protuberance. The anterior border is attached to the spinous process of the atlas to the 7th cervical vertebra, and the posterior border is attached to the external occipital crest to the spinous process of the 7th cervical vertebra. So it is a triangular fibrous sheet which provides a median fibrous septum in between the muscles of the back region. Muscles of the back, they are arranged in 2 groups mainly, the superficial group and the deep group. Superficial group is again divided into superficial layer, which is the layer 1, and deep layer of the superficial group is the layer 2. So in the layer 1 we are having trapezius and the latissimus dorsi muscle. In deep layer of the superficial group, ligatus scapulae, rhomboides major minor, serratus posterior superior, serratus posterior inferior, splenius capitis and cervicis. This splenius capitis and cervicis may be considered in the intermediate group also. The deep group is the consisting of the longitudinal muscles, which are the erector spinae, longissimus muscle and the spinalis muscle, and other deep group muscles, these are the multifidus, rotators, interspinalis and intertransverse muscles. So what are the superficial muscles? The layer 1 muscle, these are this trapezium shaped trapezius muscle and the latissimus dorsi muscle, which is the muscle of the lower back region. The trapezius muscle, it is the large flat triangular muscle. We already discussed this muscle. It is originating from the upper part of the external occipital protuberance and medial 1/3 part of the superior nuchal line, and the ligamentum nuchae, which is extending from the external occipital protuberance up to the cervical C7 of the cervical vertebra. and it also originates from the spinous processes of all the thoracic vertebrae. It is inserted into the posterior border of the lateral 1/3 part of the clavicle, medial border of the acromion process, and the upper border of the spinous process of the scapula. It is supplied by the spinal accessory nerve and the ventral rami of the C3 and the C4. This acts as a sensory nerve supply. As the action, it elevates the shoulder and it also causes the shrugging of the shoulder. Next muscle is the latissimus dorsi, present in the lower back region. Then in the second group, we are having this levator scapulae, which elevates the scapula, rhomboides minor and the rhomboides major muscle. In the intermediate group, as I have told you, serratus posterior superior and the serratus posterior inferior, these are the muscles present. The muscle looks like a serrate shape, so the name is serratus. As it is posteriorly placed, the name is posterior, and superior and inferior. So according to this, the naming is given. In the deep group, we are having splenius capitis and the splenius cervicis muscle, longissimus cervicis muscle. So splenius capitis. Capitis fibers are going towards the skull and cervicis muscles are present in the neck region. Longissimus cervicis and the longissimus thoracis muscle. Then the spinalis muscle, they are also present in the median group. And this is the iliocostalis muscle. Iliocostalis lumborum, iliocostalis thoracis and iliocostalis cervicis. So this iliocostalis, longissimus and the spinalis, these are the three subdivisions of the erector spinae muscle. This is the muscle of the deep group. Erector spinae muscle divided into iliocostalis, longissimus and the spinalis muscle. And this is the main muscles of this back region of the body, which are extending from the sacrum up to the skull region. So these muscles, they are extending from sacrum up to the skull region. First we will see the splenius capitis and the cervicis. The splenius capitis, it arises from the spinous process of the 7 cervical vertebra and upper 4 thoracic vertebrae. The fibers of it runs upward and laterally to the inserts into the mastoid process and the lateral 1/3 part of the superior nuchal line. It is supplied by the middle cervical nerves. And as an action, it rotates the head and face to the same side. About the splenius cervicis, it is originating from spinous process of the 3rd to 6th thoracic vertebra and it is inserted into the transverse process of the upper 4 cervical vertebra. It is supplied by the lower cervical nerves. Action, again it turns the head and face towards the same side. So turning of the head and neck towards the head and face towards the same side is the function of the splenius capitis and splenius cervicis muscle. Splenius, the meaning of the splenius is nothing but a bandage. It is a Latin word, meaning is bandage. It binds the deep extensors of the back of the neck like a bandage, hence the name is splenius. Next muscle is the erector spinae muscle. As I have told you, the erector spinae muscle, it is again divided into iliocostalis muscle, lateral group, in the lateral column. In the middle column, longissimus group, and in the medial column is the spinalis group. So lateral column iliocostalis, intermediate column is the longissimus muscle, and medial column is the spinalis muscle. Iliocostalis, it is comprised of the iliocostalis lumborum in the lumbar region. This is iliocostalis lumborum. Iliocostalis thoracis in the thorax region and iliocostalis cervicis in the neck region. The longissimus, it is the middle column and it is composed of longissimus thoracis and longissimus cervicis muscle and longissimus capitis muscle. Longissimus capitis muscle, here is the longissimus capitis muscle, which arises from the transverse process of the lower 4 cervical vertebrae and insert into the mastoid process, which is supplied by the lower cervical nerves. And action is it extends the head and turns the face to the same side, is the action of the longissimus capitis muscle. Rest of the muscle, they are the longissimus cervicis and longissimus thoracis muscle. Next to it, in the medial column, we are having spinalis muscle. The spinalis muscle again having parts like spinalis lumborum, spinalis thoracis and spinalis cervicis. These are the muscles present in the medial column. So these are the erector spinae muscle. In the transversus spinalis, the other muscles are the semispinalis. So again semispinalis capitis and semispinalis cervicis muscle. This is the semispinalis capitis, semispinalis thoracis and semispinalis cervicis muscle. The multifidus and the rotator. These are the deeper or the deepest muscle present. First we will see the semispinalis muscle. Semispinalis capitis, it is a long, thick, powerful muscle, produces longitudinal bulging of the neck on each side of the median furrow. The origin of this muscle is from the transverse process of the lower 4 and the upper 6 thoracic vertebra. And insertion, the fibers, it runs vertically upward to be inserted into the area in between the superior and the inferior nuchal line. It is supplied by the posterior rami of the spinal nerve, and the action is, these are the extensors of the head region. So muscles of the back region, they are mainly the postural muscles. As the vertebral column, it is forming the median axis of the body, and there are the big muscles from the sacrum to the skull in different strata which keep this spine straight. So these are mainly the postural muscles. So semispinalis capitis is about this. Semispinalis cervicis, it is originating from the transverse process of the lower cervical and the upper thoracic vertebra and inserted into the spines of the cervical vertebrae. So this is the semispinalis capitis and semispinalis cervicis. About the multifidus muscle, multifidus rotators, these are the deeper muscles of the back region. Multifidus is the oblique deep muscles. These arises from the mammillary processes. So on this lumbar vertebra having a mammillary process, origin is from there, and they are being inserted 2 to 3 higher spinous processes. About the rotators, these are the rotators. Origin is one of the transverse process and inserted into the spinous process. So origin, insertion, like that. So these are the rotators of the head. Now coming back to our topic, suboccipital region. Suboccipital region is the region extending above from the inferior nuchal line. This is the external occipital protuberance, external occipital crest. From the middle of the external occipital crest is the 2 curved bony markings present on either side. These are the inferior nuchal line. So its upper extension is at the inferior nuchal line. The suboccipital region extends below up to the spinous process of the axis vertebra or the second cervical vertebra, and its lateral extension is the mastoid process and the transverse processes of the atlas and the axis vertebra. So if you draw a triangle over here, inferior nuchal line, mastoid process, laterally up to the transverse process of the axis vertebra and from spinous process above. This includes the suboccipital region on one side, and this is the another suboccipital region on another side. So these are the first cervical vertebra, which is a ring shaped, called as the atlas vertebra. Second cervical vertebra, which is having this odontide process or also called as the spinous process of the axis vertebra. These are the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane, which connects this posterior arch of the atlas to the occipital bone. A joint formed between the atlas and the occipital bone is atlanto-occipital joint, which allows the nodding or rest movement. The joint present between the atlas and the axis is the atlanto-axial joint, which allows the no movement or the rotatory movement. How to expose the suboccipital region? First, you have to expose the skin present on the back of the neck. So skin here is very thick. The superficial fascia is fibrous and dense. So in the superficial fascia, you are able to see the greater and the third occipital nerve and the terminal branches. So this is the terminal branch of the occipital artery, along with which greater occipital nerve is present, which is the thickest nerve, cutaneous nerve in the body. The third occipital nerve is also present in the medial part. After exposing that, you have to cut the trapezius muscle. These are the fibers of the trapezius muscle. So trapezius, whose fibers are running downward, that you have to cut. Then you have to cut the splenius capitis. Then this is the semispinalis capitis. So semispinalis capitis, the fibers runs vertically upward for the insertion into the line between the superior and the inferior nuchal line, and in the same plane you have to cut the longissimus capitis also. So to expose this suboccipital region, these such muscles you have to cut. So here you have shown with the suboccipital triangular muscles. So what are the muscles present in this suboccipital triangle or the suboccipital muscles? These are called as obliquus capitis superior, obliquus capitis inferior, rectus capitis posterior major, and rectus capitis posterior minor. We will see the details of these muscles first. The rectus capitis posterior major muscle. The origin of this muscle is from the spinous processes of the axis vertebra. The fibers runs vertically upward to be inserted into the part below the lateral part below the inferior nuchal line. This is the rectus capitis posterior major. All these suboccipital muscles, they are supplied by the dorsal ramus of the first cervical nerve, which is also called as the suboccipital nerve. All these muscles are mainly postural in nature. Acting alone, the rectus capitis posterior major, it turns the chin to the same side. About the rectus capitis posterior minor, it is originating from the posterior tubercle of the atlas vertebra, and the fibers, they are going to be inserted on the medial part of the area below the inferior nuchal line. Again supplied by the suboccipital nerve, and it extends the hip. The third muscle is the obliquus capitis superior muscle. The origin is from the transverse process of the atlas vertebra. This is the first cervical vertebra. Transverse process of the atlas vertebra and the insertion into the lateral part of the area between the superior and the inferior nuchal line. This is the superior nuchal line and this will be the inferior nuchal line. So lateral part of the area between two nuchal lines is the insertion for the superior obliquus muscle. It is again mainly the postural muscle and extend the head. The inferior oblique muscle, it is originating from the spine of axis vertebra and inserted on the transverse process of the atlas vertebra. So origin of the two muscles is on the spine of the axis vertebra. One is the rectus capitis posterior major and other one is the obliquus capitis inferior muscle. So all these muscles, they are supplied by the dorsal ramus of the first cervical nerve, also called as the suboccipital nerve, and all these are the postural muscles. Suboccipital triangle is important topic for short note. What is suboccipital triangle? It is the pair of muscular triangles situated one on each side of the midline. What are its boundaries then? Superomedial boundary is formed by rectus capitis posterior major and rectus capitis posterior minor, superolaterally by the obliquus capitis superior and inferiorly by the obliquus capitis inferior muscle. So this is the triangular space. Its roof is formed by the dense fibrous tissue and is covered by the semispinalis capitis muscle medially and longissimus capitis muscle laterally. The floor of this triangle, it is formed by the posterior arch of the atlas vertebra and posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. What are the contents of this triangle? The third part of the vertebral artery, the dorsal ramus of the first cervical nerve, and the suboccipital plexus of veins and the greater occipital nerve. These are the contents of the triangle. So here again you can see it. This is the rectus capitis posterior major, rectus capitis posterior minor, superior oblique muscle and the inferior oblique muscle. Here you are going to see the third part of the vertebral artery. This one is the posterior ramus of the C1, which emerged in between the third part of the vertebral artery and the posterior arch of the atlas vertebra. Soon it divides into the muscular branches. So each muscle of the suboccipital triangle is supplied by the dorsal ramus of the C1 muscle. C1 nerve, sorry. So, what about the description about this? The third part of the vertebral artery, the vertebral artery, it is the largest first branch of the subclavian artery. In the scaleno-vertebral triangle, the first part is present. The second part is running through the foramina transversaria of C7 up to the atlas, that is C1 vertebrae. When it comes at the foramina transversaria of the first cervical vertebra, that is atlas vertebra, it runs laterally having a bend, and then from here it is the third part of the vertebral artery which is present in this suboccipital triangle. From here the fourth part will turn into the skull. So here mainly we are having the third part of the vertebral artery. Here we can also see the greater occipital nerve, which is emerging from the middle border, which is emerging from the middle part of the inferior border of this inferior oblique muscle. The nerve runs upward, crossing the suboccipital triangle, and it pierces the semispinalis capitis, comes in the posterior part of the scalp region to supply it. The dorsal ramus of the first cervical nerve, which is also called as the suboccipital nerve, emerge backward between the vertebral artery and posterior arch of the atlas. So this is the emergence point of the first cervical nerve between the vertebral artery and the posterior arch of the atlas vertebra. Immediately it divides into the four branches to supply the four muscles of the suboccipital triangle, and then in this it is also having a communicating branch with this greater occipital nerve. We have seen the third part of the vertebral artery, dorsal ramus of the first cervical nerve. Here you are going to see the terminal branches of the occipital artery also. So arterial anastomosis is present surrounding to this semispinalis capitis muscle, and it is mainly between the occipital artery. It is the branch of the external carotid artery. So it is having a large muscular branch which is called as the descending branch, which divides into the superficial branch and the deep branch. The superficial branch of the occipital artery anastomosis with the transverse cervical artery, and the deep branch anastomosis with the deep cervical artery, which are the branches of the costocervical trunk. So these are in turn the branches of the subclavian artery. So arterial anastomosis present surrounding to the semispinalis capitis is in between external carotid artery and the costocervical trunk and the transverse cervical artery, which are the branches of the subclavian artery. So here a groove is present on the posterior ramus of this atlas vertebra. So in that groove is the lodgement of the third part of the vertebral artery and the dorsal ramus of the C1. Now about the applied aspect. Neck rigidity occurs in the meningitis due to the spasm of the extensor muscles of the back of the neck. This is mainly caused due to irritation of the nerve roots of the cervical spinal nerves during their passage through the subarachnoid space. This suboccipital triangle is very much important as the neurosurgeon approaches the posterior cranial fossa through this triangle. So, if neurosurgeon wants to remove any tumor or any mass, that the neurosurgeon operates this posterior cranial fossa through the subclavian triangle. Cisternal puncture. What is cisternal puncture? It is done when the lumbar puncture fails to take out the CSF sample for therapeutic and the diagnostic purpose. The needle, it is introduced in the midline just above the spine of the axis vertebra. It pierces the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. A give-way sensation will appear over here at a depth of about 2 inches. So here utmost care should be taken as just 1 centimeter in front to the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane is the location for the medulla, which if damaged it may be fatal. So these are the clinical aspects. So at the end of this topic you must remember what are the boundaries of the suboccipital triangle, what is the content of the suboccipital triangle, what is its applied aspect, and you should also remember the anatomical basis of this cisternal puncture and the neck rigidity. Thank you.